Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ian Campbell, and I am CEO of Mission Suite. And welcome to my presentation on You've Got the Lead, Now What? This is a presentation that we've created that talks about how to get a lead to take action. Excuse me. To give you a little bit of background, tell you a little bit about me and why I'm qualified to be talking about what I'm talking about. As I mentioned, I'm CEO of Mission Suite. Mission Suite is a sales and marketing automation software. It's built specifically for small and mid-market businesses. Think of us like one of your standard, Infusionsoft or Salesforce, et cetera, without necessarily the price tag. We combine CRM, marketing automation, inbound lead generation, and email marketing into one system. We refer to it as unified marketing. And to kind of simply put, we automate lead generation and business development efforts in one system. Now, I've been in marketing and sales for over 15 years now, so I've been doing this for a while. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. I remember the days before the internet was a big thing, when websites were nice to have and not necessarily a need to have, and kind of seen through the entirety of the way that the industry has grown and morphed over the course of the years. So I've seen this for a while, and so hopefully I can be of some service here, answer some questions that you might have, and be available for you and give you some good information to walk away with. Just a bit of housekeeping here. We are able to take questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, by all means, go ahead and ask that. I will be addressing those towards the end of the presentation. Excuse me, after I've gone through everything here, and then we can take care of those then. Now, first, before we get started, I've got a couple questions for you, actually, and I'm going to use these as polls here, and you'll see a pop-up come up on your screen, and you can answer them or not. But I think they'd be helpful for me to see this. So, first question here I'm going to ask is. I'm going to start voting on is, are you a B2B company selling to business, or are you a B2C company selling business to consumer? Excuse me. So go ahead. You'll see the link pop up, and go ahead and you can start voting on either one of the two here to jump off. The reason that I'm asking this, I want to make sure that I want to try and tailor my presentation as best I can to all of you on this call here. I want to make sure that if we're overwhelmed with with consumer products or business products that we can align appropriately. So it looks like the vast majority here are business to business. We've got so far we've got about 71% of people, actually even more than that, focusing on business to business here. So we're going to keep this open for another 5 seconds or so. So be sure to jump in. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna stop the voting on this one here. It looks like we've got about right now we've got 84% to about 80 to 80-20 right now as business to business over business to consumer. So we'll target this and focus it in on the B2B side of things. But I'll make sure to if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything like that you want to talk about on the consumer side, definitely feel free to ask, and we'll get those answered as well. As now, the next question I have is: are you selling products, physical products, or are you selling services? And again, I want to make sure that we know. For example, obviously I sell a service here, so my calls to action and conversions from marketing funnel to sales funnel are going to be different than somebody who's selling services and going from that I sell services is going to be different from somebody selling products who's just trying to get people to buy the product or to have a conversation in regard to a full solution. So looks like we've got some good responses here. Keep them all coming. We've got right now we're at about 70% to 30% of products over services. And again, we'll keep this poll open for another about 5 seconds. Excuse me, and then we'll shut it down and kind of work with what we have. So, all right, excellent. So it looks like we're actually pretty close to 50-50 here on products and services. Maybe leaning a little bit more towards the services end. So what I'll do is I will once again I'll focus in on the service angle, and so I'll talk primarily about services. I'll talk about when we'll talk about solution selling as far as products are concerned, and how to get a lead to take action on that as well. But again, if you have questions about specific products, about specific anything specific that you might want to talk about on the product side, please again feel free to ask a question, and excuse me, and I'll do my best to answer as best I can. All right. So again, this is we're talking about how we get leads to take action. Now, as I mentioned, I've kind of been in this world for quite some time, and I've seen kind of the way that we used to do it back when it was. I mean, I remember doing fax campaigns and getting people to sending a letter to a decision maker, having them circle a response, and then fax me back the answer all the way down, and then through to when contact forms on websites became a thing and became simple to implement, and now we're at the next step where we're generating leads using content and using different resources and different things to get people to raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to talk to you. So how do we get a lead to take action? First, I want to kind of take a look at what we used to do. So if everybody on the call has been around for a while, I'm sure this probably sounds pretty familiar to you. In the old days, if you will, it used to be that somebody would fill out a contact form on your website, and then we'd start following up with phone calls. And so you'd get the contact form, you'd get the contact information, an email, maybe a little bit of a message, and then you would start calling, and you'd leave a message, and maybe you'd go through a 6 or 7 phone call process, and just to try to schedule an appointment and get somebody to talk to you. Problem was, what I found is that unless it's well, I'm not even going to say unless, but more often than not, these phone calls would get incredibly annoying, and I can't count the number of times that decision makers told me to stop calling, which, as far as my sales manager was concerned, would tell me would mean that I was doing my job properly. But at the end of the day, they left these prospects and these leads not wanting to do business with my company, which obviously is problematic. We want to make sure, everything that we're doing, we want to make sure that we're leaving a good taste in our customers' mouth, so that even if they don't want to have a conversation with us today, they might want to have a conversation with us tomorrow. I mean, the old adage, no doesn't mean no, no means not right now, right? As far as sales is concerned, I'll throw that caveat in there. What we've come to learn is that just getting people to fill out the form isn't enough anymore. Just getting people to fill out that form and then starting to call them. I mean, we've all been on the other end of those phone calls. We've all seen and we've all experienced that kind of annoyance from sales guys once we filled out a form or requested some sort of white paper, case study, or whatever the content piece might be. So now I want to move on to kind of what we do now, and what we get to do now, rather. So, because this sounds all too familiar to me and to the vast majority of people that I talk about. Before we move on to what we do now, talking about how this impacts you, and this slide is important because it does. It kind of shows you. It talks a little bit about kind of the results of this kind of annoyance, right? I mean, you're getting these leads, you're getting people to fill out the contact form, but they're not necessarily qualified. You don't know if they're qualified or not, right? I mean, you could be selling to hospitals and get somebody from a hospital, but it could be the janitor who's filling out the form because he's interested in the topic. You risk turning the qualified leads away, and your closing ratio just isn't as high as it should be. And what's worse is that at the end of the day, you're losing money, right? I mean, if we're in sales to make money, we're in business to make money. It doesn't matter if you're a salesperson, a marketing person, or the business owner themselves. You want to be there. You're there to make money. And this old style of lead generation and lead follow-up to get these people to take action is at the end of the day is costing you money. So now let's move on to what we get to do now. Because what if things were to change? What if the way that we were interacting with our leads were to completely change? Well, now we get to nurture new leads, to make a warm lead even warmer. So if they fill out, say they've requested a piece of content from your website, yeah, sure, they're warm. They've shown you that they're on your website. They've shown you that they're interested in what you're talking about. But now we get to make them warmer. And now I'm not saying that if somebody fills out the contact us form on your website that you shouldn't touch base with them immediately. But we've learned that when someone downloads content from your website, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready for a chat. It doesn't necessarily mean that they want to talk to you. It just means that they're interested in the topic, not necessarily talking to you to figure out how to solve it. So what else do we get to do? We get to show our expertise and our relevancy before calling somebody. We get to show them that we're worth having a conversation with, and finally leading to convincing them that they want to talk to you about the topic that they're researching before talking to anyone else. If they've chances are that if they've downloaded a piece of content from your website or from a landing page that you've got, that they're interested in the topic, that they're researching the topic, that they're doing that kind of early stage research. So they've decided that they've wanted to learn more about it. So now we're able to make the case that you're the one that they should be talking to learn more about it. So what does this lead to? Leads to a higher closing ratio. At the end of the day, you're going to close more deals because if you're not pushing people away, if you're gently nurturing them into having a conversation with you, your closing ratio gets to go up, and that's a good thing for everybody involved. So how do we do all of this? Now, automation is the simple answer, and so quickly we'll talk quickly about automation here. Now, some call it marketing automation, some call it inbound marketing. As I mentioned, we call it unified marketing. It goes by a lot of different names, and anybody that you talk to, any software provider is probably going to have their own reference term for it. I like unified marketing because this really does this process that we send people through really kind of brings together the ideas of email marketing, of lead nurturing, of marketing automation, and of sales, of course, right? Because at the end of the day, someone's got to talk to somebody to get them to take action, especially if we're talking about a B2B purchase that is either service-based or a larger product base. If we're talking about smaller products, then of course, it's a little bit easier to get people to take action without necessarily having a conversation with you. But if what you're looking for are large dollar orders, then we want to make sure that we're getting to the right people and that we're having a conversation with them. So, but however you want to define it, what we're able to do is we're able to create a system that can automatically follow up on your behalf and show that expertise and relevancy before you even ask for a follow-up conversation. So typically, and again, kind of referencing the old way of doing things, we would have to make the case that we're worth talking to. Somebody fills out a contact form, so we call somebody. We have to make the case that we are worth talking to, that you can rely on us because we're trustworthy, because we're relevant to your business, because we have the expertise that you're looking for. Now we have an ability to follow up in a way that and automatically that does that for us. So in my sales training, in any sales training for that matter, we were always taught, and now I teach, and I'm sure that many of you do as well, that we have to earn the right to ask for the sale, right? And now I would argue that the same holds true here, right? That taking a lead from just being a warmish lead and getting them to a one-on-one conversation, you need to earn the right to do that. You need to earn the right to ask for that. And in order to do so, we need to show them that we're going to deliver and that we have the knowledge that they're looking for. So before we move on, I want to do a couple more. I got a couple more questions for you here. Now, first things first, I want to know, are you familiar with inbound marketing and or automated marketing, anything like that? So you've got the poll up on your screen again. So go ahead and start answering for me. I want to know, I want to get a feel for who's kind of got an idea on this, and you know, where we're starting from here. So go ahead and if you can answer the questions here. We've got we'll keep this open for about 30 seconds, and see where we all stand here. So go ahead. Some people are responding here. It looks like we're at about 50-50. All right, a couple more people coming in. Looks like we've got a bunch of people who are a few more who are familiar with the concept, and then those that aren't so far. We'll keep it open for just a few more seconds here. All right, so it looks like we'll say we're at about 50-50 right now. And I'll stop the voting here. We've got a few more. So it looks like we've got a few more people who, in fact, are not familiar with the concept of inbound marketing or automated marketing than those that are, which is great. So we'll kind of dial in a little bit more on that. And so now I've got just a question for those of you who are familiar with it. Do you have a plan implemented, or are you that you're planning to implement for inbound or automated marketing right now? I'm curious because I want to know. We're going to talk through some of a few things here on some best practices for inbound and automated marketing, and so I want to know who's already got a plan, who's thinking about that they've already implemented, or that they still want to. So we've got about 30 more seconds. So go ahead and keep responding here. So it looks like we've got about 2/3 that don't have a plan so far, and about 1/3 that do, which is changing as we speak. So this is always interesting. Doing these live calls on these polls are always fascinating. So looks like we're at about 70-30, favoring those that don't have a plan yet, to those that do. And so, okay, so I'll give it a couple more seconds here and stop the voting now. So it looks like the majority of you don't have a plan. Some of you do have a plan that you're implementing, and so we'll move on and just to kind of focusing on those that focusing the conversation around kind of creating a plan for your first time, maybe, and those of you that do have a plan, maybe you can pull some insights from the stuff that we're talking about here, and if not, we can always, again, if you've got questions about specific best practices, anything specific that you want to talk about, please, by all means, jump in and do questions and ask questions, and we'll respond to those as best we can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my process. I'm going to show you the process that I use and that I implement for my clients every day to automate the follow-up for leads and to get them to move from the marketing funnel, if you will, to the sales funnel. And now just to, and this is actually an aside, I don't have a slide on this, but the marketing funnel, basically, there's the difference between the marketing and the sales funnel, just for if any of you don't know. The difference between the marketing and the sales funnel, the marketing funnel is essentially the way that we pull the lead in, and the way that we qualify the lead. So marketing funnel, for example, can consist of everything from top level let's say at the top you've got your landing page and you're downloading some sort of content, and then they go to the next step, which is they enter a survey, or they click on a link to have a conversation with you. That's the marketing funnel steps, and then they jump when it then moves over to the sales funnel, which is when the sales team typically takes it over. And the sales funnel, as we've kind of been educated on historically, focuses in on the different steps of the sales process. So from new lead, from qualified lead, down to the next step of first conversation, to the next step of the proposal, to the needs analysis, to the proposal, to the negotiation, to the closing, et cetera, right? So moving people from the marketing funnel into the sales funnel, that key space there, that's the place in which we need to make people take action. We need to encourage people to take action. And that's what we talk about when we talk about nurturing, and we talk about that unified marketing aspect, because we have the ability now to automate that process and move people from one step to another. So I'm going to show you this 5-email follow-up sequence that I put together. And now, obviously, I use my own software for this, as I'm sure you would expect. But there are plenty of different tools out there that you can use to do this. And for that matter, if you don't have a high volume sales process, and you're not terribly worried about scalability, you can even just use your Outlook or your Gmail or what have you, right? Create these follow-up templates that you're utilizing, or that you want to utilize, and send those out. Save them as templates, and you can just kind of keep sending them out every time you get a new lead, every time you get a new lead coming in from your website or from social media, what have you, right? So you can set these up. I think it's better to use a system, as I'm sure it doesn't surprise you. But you don't necessarily need a separate platform. You can do it on your own if you want to. It's a bit more cumbersome, but at the end of the day, whatever's going to work for you is the best way to do it. And so, irrespective of what you're using, do something. Is my core message of this piece here. So this 5-email follow-up sequence that I put together, it's focused on doing five things. The first thing is establishing relevancy. We want to show people that we're relevant to them, and that we have the information that they're looking for. It shows expertise. It positions the goal of your campaign, or the goal of your of this marketing funnel, as the next logical step in their education process. It asks them to take action, and salesperson after salesperson after salesperson has had to be taught this, and frankly, marketing people do too, because in marketing we talk about our calls to action all the time. We talk about all this stuff, but at the end of the day, if you don't ask them to take action, you don't get what you don't ask for. So if you don't ask them to take action, they're probably not going to take action unless they're super motivated. But the super motivated ones are already going to be contacting you, right? This isn't necessarily something for the super motivated. It's something for the on the fencers. And then finally, if they don't respond, it helps you sign off gracefully. So I'm going to take you through this sequence quickly here. Not too quickly, but we'll go through it. And again, any questions that come up, feel free to ask, and we'll address them at the end. So email number 1 in getting a lead to take action. Now, the purpose of this email is to establish the relevancy and build that trust with your lead. Now, I've included the key things on a slide here, but we want to make sure that we recap why we're connecting with them. And in essence, hey, you asked for this, now I'm giving it to you. You want to provide useful content, which of course includes the third item here is giving them what they asked for. If they ask for a template, in my case, if they ask for a template on inbound marketing, but I give them a list of 20 things that they can be automating, they're not going to be terribly happy with me, right? And I've lost the lead. But if you're giving them what they've asked for, I'm giving them the inbound marketing template that they asked for originally, then it's helping them get set up. But that's on top of that, providing useful content. So the top 5 most viewed blog articles or 5 helpful articles on whatever, right? I mean, so find some more useful content. Give them more than they wanted. Give them more than they asked for. Make sure that it's relevant, but give them more than they asked for. Finally, the PS line. Now, PS lines are often the highest converting lines in an email. And similarly, when it comes to direct mail or letter marketing, it's the same thing there, right? These PS lines, there's a reason that a lot of those old sales letters that we used to get had PS, PPS, PPPS, because those are the things that we always tend to look towards. As we have the tendency to move to the end of the page, and so this gives them a simple conversion. Now, in this step, in that first step, you don't want to be too presumptive. Personally, I like to give them the option, hey, if you'd like to connect, this is how to do so. Click here to go to my booking calendar, and we can talk more. Email number 2 is the expertise email. Now, this is where you're going to show your expertise. You're going to provide more resources. And the goal here is to connect your company directly and explicitly with the topic that the leader is researching. So, for example, using data to show expertise in the field. According to a well-respected research firm, 82% of people say statistics give them confidence, right? Something like that. Find something that's specific to you and specific to your specific to your business and your offer, and focus in on it. But then, and this is actually just equally as important, but offer some sort of premium content. Give them something else, right? We live in an age where people are kind of craving more information. They want more and more and more and more and more. So give them more, right? Give them something else. For example, again, this inbound marketing campaign worksheet that I've created here, I offer that as the download, and I give them that in the first email. But in my second email, I offer the email templates that I'm actually walking through right now, and they're more in depth than we have time to go into right now. But we have that offer, we have that ability to give them that. So I'm able to say, hey, here's the first thing, and here's something else that relates to it, and that will help you be more successful with it. And then finally, again, a PS line. Not too presumptive, but make sure that it ties the original content and the premium content to the idea that a conversation with you or your company can help them solve their problem. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to figure out how to do. They're trying to figure out how to solve their problem. So email number 3. We're going to move is our positioning email, and now this is the first email that has the primary goal of converting, right? So the past 2 emails, their primary goal was to share content, was to kind of build that credibility, if you will. Now this is a conversion email, but it's not an explicit one, right? So we want to make sure that the goal of this email here positions your campaign, the goal of your campaign, whether, in my case it's a scheduled conversation, in your case it might be some sort of a meeting. Now personally, I like to keep these goals non-intrusive. So maybe asking for a meeting is a little bit much, because decision makers are busy, and they and they don't necessarily have time to sit down with everybody that reaches out to them. But so maybe instead of a meeting, it's a phone call, or maybe it's a web conference, or a 15-minute, whatever the case might be. Make it clear that their next step in their education process is some sort of a conversation with you, or whatever the goal of your campaign is, right? If you're trying to sell leather belts, maybe the goal probably isn't just keeping your pants up, but maybe it's looking great and feeling great with a fashionable belt. So click here to shop now. That kind of a thing. If it's and again, if we're talking about a large product sale, then maybe you're selling network gear to enterprise companies, right? Servers and switches and computers and whatnot. Well, then maybe the first conversation is actually a sit-down meeting, because you need to do that. But whatever that is, make it clear that there's a connection there. Now, with this one, I mean, you want to make sure that that you're also making them feel comfortable to reach out to you. right? So people have natural concerns. They don't know the information. They have questions that they don't want to share. They don't want to seem like they don't understand to another person. They don't mind downloading information, but they don't want to look dumb. So, it's natural to have questions. Just wanted to share the information that we've learned over 20 years in our industry. This will be a no-pressure conversation because I don't want to be sold. We know you don't want to be sold, those types of things. And again, and now on email 3 here, on our conversion emails, and this will go for the next one as well, we don't want to use a PS line because the past two, in these past two emails, the PS line is conversion, right? It's focused on conversion. These emails are all about conversion. So we don't want to confuse the message here. We want to make sure that we're specific, that we're dialed in, and we know exactly what excuse me, that we know exactly what we're looking for, what we want them to do, and that they know exactly what we want them to do. So moving on to email number 4. Now this is the explicit conversion email, right? This is the sales email. This is the one where you say, hey, listen, you're looking for, nicer than this obviously, but you're looking for information on XYZ. You're looking for information on the best tablets to buy in bulk for your school, or you're looking for information on the best wood to build your custom tables with, whatever that is, right? Whatever that initial outreach was, we want to make sure, we want to tell them we are the best ones to provide that to you. We're specifically, we're the right fit for you. We're the ones that are going to have the answers to the questions. We're going to have the quality product. We're going to everything that we believe when we go into selling a product. This is our sales email, right? So make sure that we're using a call to action that's specific to the action that you want this lead to take. So, for example, if we're, again, if it's a conference call, if it's a webinar, if it's a excuse me, it's a conference call, it's a webinar, it's a shop now, it's a meeting, it's coffee, whatever the case might be, make sure that call to action is in there. And again, no PS line here. You want to keep the focus on the main conversion piece. And now last but not least is the graceful exit. Now, if they've gotten to this point, if they've gotten to our 5th email and they haven't converted, they haven't reached out to you, they haven't called back or what have you, the chances are they're probably not going to. And I should probably mention as well that in between some of these emails, maybe towards the end of the emails, the end of the conversion cycle of the emails, we can pepper in a phone call or we can pepper in something else in. But if they get to the point where you're at email 5 or this final step of the email process and they still have not converted, they touch base, chances it's more than likely that they're not going to, and that's okay, right? We all know, we've been in business anybody who's been in business for a while knows that, you're not going to win them all, right? There's a million different reasons why, but you don't necessarily need to just bow out and close out, right? We want to make sure that, they know that they know that you won't continue reaching out. You don't want to be a pest, right? And let them know, listen, I'm not going to keep reaching out to you. I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to keep bothering you, so I'm not going to keep reaching out to you. And to be honest, as an aside, this action alone, this statement alone, may create enough of a fear of loss of a conversation with you that may get them to reach out in and of itself, right? But let them know. Just let them know that you're not going to keep reaching out. Let them know, wish them luck, and then let them know that they can still, the information that's in my brain isn't available only to people that sit down with me. You can go to our blog or go to, subscribe to our newsletter or what have you, and send them that way. That way you can kind of keep them in your world, which is obviously a great benefit to you. And finally, this is where we're going to reintroduce the PS line. Because this isn't an email that focuses on conversion, so we're going to reintroduce this PS line, and we're going to let them know how they can get in touch with you in the future if they ever decide that they want to learn more. Obviously, I'm sure you've got a signature line that has your phone number and email address and whatnot. but give them access to your booking calendar. Give them access to give them an explicit call to action that they can leverage at sometime in the future if they come back through and search for this email, because to be honest, it does happen every now and then, right? Again, no doesn't necessarily mean no in sales. No means not right now. So maybe at another time. So don't sign them off. Don't knock them out. Just the goal here is to just be graceful, be gracious, and bow out. So with that, I'd like to take some questions here. Speaking of a graceful exit, this will kind of spawn my own here. So I'll take a few questions here, and we'll and we will start going from here. So we've got a couple of questions that are already being asked, and like I say, if any others pop up, then we can drop them here. So first question is, have you noticed a difference in lead generation between plain text emails and newsletter emails? So for me, I like both. I like to do a blend. With a lot of the campaigning that I do, personally, and a lot of the campaigning that I do for some of my clients here, I tend to so I'll phase this out, and I'll do email 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do a phone call, and then do the email number 5. Now, the best way, as far as getting a lead to take action, I've noticed that plain text emails are a lot easier. So just writing an email that looks like it came from your Outlook or from Gmail is a lot more effective than a newsletter style email that looks like it was branded and looks like it's a marketing email, because people don't necessarily need to respond to marketing emails, but they're more they're much more likely to they're much more likely to connect with you via a plain text email, because it looks like it came from you. And I grant you that all these systems, I'll say 99% of these systems are going to have the unsubscribe and the footer language that's all required for canned spam. But there are ways, you can kind of drop that down a few pegs to so that it's not as prevalent and whatnot. So then to make it look like it actually came from you. So, as far as lead generation is concerned, and at the end of and this is where kind of the end of the campaign runs, because after those 5 emails, then maybe I'll, if they've bounced over to my newsletter list, then they're getting a newsletter style email that has a note with "Dear first name, we had a conversation, or we were emailing back and forth about whatever about this topic, and I thought that you might be interested in this blog article that we just wrote, or these types of things. If you have certain platforms will allow you to pull in an RSS feed that can even automate that as well, which is incredibly helpful, because you're able to push out emails and push out blog articles without necessarily having to create a new newsletter every time. So another question that I have here is, are you going to have example templates for us to see under the attachments at the end of this presentation? So absolutely. What I can do is I can actually upload my template here, and I will figure out how to do that. But I can upload a Word doc here that will allow, and that'll show you kind of how to set inbound marketing, and kind of those 2 documents that I mentioned before, right? The worksheet of how to set up a campaign, and then the email templates that I use, that I have here, that I use to create these emails. So absolutely, and as soon as I get over my technical deficiency here, I will certainly get those uploaded. Next question I have here is, in B2B, do you have sales send out from their email addresses to make it more personal? Absolutely, hands down. Again, because at the end of the day, you don't buy from a company, you buy from a person, right? And likewise, you don't sell to a company, you sell to a person. So personalization is huge, is such an important thing. And the ability to, dear first name or Mr. last name or, title last, whatever. I mean, the ability to add those types of personalizations in there is a huge step, because it creates that kind of connection there, right? Now, imagine if that dear first name or Mr. So-and-so came from ABC Corp as opposed to John Smith at abccorp.com, right? I mean, it becomes a lot more, you know who these people are, and you can put a name to the company, and it makes it a lot more impactful, So, all right, excellent. Now, with that, those are the last questions. Those are the only few questions that I have here right now. I will take a few more seconds and if we have any other questions that we have here. It does not look like it. So to wrap up, I'm just going to say thank you very much. I very much appreciate you joining me here today. My contact information is on screen there, and you've got my name, phone number, email address, and website there. And my website is also in the attachments area on this too. So you've got all this information that you can feel free to reach out for me if you have any questions. If there's anything that I can do to help you out and help you figure all this stuff out, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. But yeah, and other than that, like I said, I will figure out how to operate these attachments section here. So one last question. Looks like, how did I arrive at the magic number of 5 emails? Is it based on data? Honestly, it might be. I don't know. It's not based on data for me. Basically, it's what I did. I looked at what I had, the different types of things that I had, and the different types of conversations that I was having along the way to get people to qualify. Excuse me. So when back when I was starting to do this, before I started creating the automated system, excuse me, or before I started implementing my automated system, rather, what I would do is I was the classic guy. I'd have you fill out the contact form, and then I would answer any questions that came up, etc. And it got to a point where I realized I was having the same conversations over and over again. Right, so I would give somebody an inbound marketing template, and then I'd call them to follow up afterwards, and then they'd ask me, "Well, what sort of do you do specific emails?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I do actually. Let me send you some emails. Let me send you a template that I use to create emails for my clients." And then I realized that that'd be a good next step. And then the third one was was kind of what should I say? It was just, like I said, it was just kind of a logical next step. That it was, hey, this is what you've been looking at. This is what you've been working on and researching. Here's some information. Here's some more information that I can give you, and you want to have a conversation. And then finally, you realize that so those it was just the natural progression of me qualifying my excuse me, of me qualifying my my prospects and my leads, that I kept going through the same things over and over and over again. So finally, I just decided, well, why don't I automate this? And this will have to be the last question because we're at the 45-minute mark. But at what point are customers statistically most likely to respond? What I've seen in my world, just in my stuff, is that they're most likely to respond at either 3 or 4. Well, I guess that's not technically true. I'd say that we see a lot who respond after. We see some that respond after email 1. We see a few more, and I don't have specific numbers on these. This is really anecdotal, but I'd say that we see maybe 20% will respond after email 1. Maybe 30% will respond after email 3. Another 30% respond after email 4, and then the rest may or may not respond after in the other areas, but the vast majority are going to come at either 3 or 4, and then but you'll get a decent number that'll probably respond after your first one as well, just because if they, a lot of people are still saying that when they download something, they want the information from you. So, but yeah. So that is going to have to be the last question because we are wrapping up here, and we are coming to the end of my time. But I do, like I said, I appreciate your time here. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the feedback and the information here. So, like I said, I'll touch base with support and find out how I can get you those attachments, and then we'll and like I said, if any questions come up, anything else that I can help you identify or answer, by all means, like I said, my contact information is here. So, thank you all so very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Business to business over business to consumer. So we'll target this and focus it in on the B2B side of things. But I'll make sure to if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything like that you want to talk about on the consumer side, definitely feel free to ask, and we'll get those answered as well. As now, the next question I have is: are you selling products, physical products, or are you selling services? And again, I want to make sure that we know. For example, obviously I sell a service here, so my calls to action and conversions from marketing funnel to sales funnel are going to be different than somebody who's selling services and going from that I sell services is going to be different from somebody selling products who's just trying to get people to buy the product or to have a conversation in regard to and to kind of simply put, we automate lead generation and business development efforts in one system. Now, I've been in marketing and sales for over 15 years now, so I've been doing this for a while. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. I remember the days before the internet was a big thing, when websites were nice to have and not necessarily a need to have, and kind of seen through the entirety of the way that the industry has grown and morphed over the course of the years. So I've seen this for a while, and so hopefully I can be of some service here, answer some questions that you might have, and be available for you and give you some good information to walk away with. Just a bit of housekeeping here. We are able to take questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, by all means, go ahead and ask. The reason that I'm asking this, I want to make sure that, I want to try and tailor my presentation as best I can to all of you on this call here. I want to make sure that if we're overwhelmed with with consumer products or business products that we can align appropriately. So it looks like the vast majority here are business to business. We've got so far we've got about 71% of people, actually even more than that, focusing on business to business here. So we're going to keep this open for another 5 seconds or so. So be sure to jump in. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna stop the voting on this one here. It looks like we've got about right now we've got 84% to about 80 to 80-20 right now. As that, I will be addressing those towards the end of the presentation. Excuse me, after I've gone through everything here, and then we can take care of those then. Now, first, before we get started, I've got a couple questions for you, actually, and I'm going to use these as polls here, and you'll see a pop-up come up on your screen, and you can answer them or not. But I think they'd be helpful for me to see this. So, first question here I'm going to ask is. I'm going to start voting on is: are you a B2B company selling to business, or are you a B2C company selling business to consumer? Excuse excuse me. So go ahead. You'll see the link pop up, and go ahead and you can start voting on either one of the two here to jump off. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ian Campbell, and I am CEO of Mission Suite. And welcome to my presentation on You've Got the Lead, Now What? This is a presentation that we've created that talks about how to get a lead to take action. Excuse me. To give you a little bit of background, tell you a little bit about me and why I'm qualified to be talking about what I'm talking about. As I mentioned, I'm CEO of Mission Suite. Mission Suite is a sales and marketing automation software. It's built specifically for small and mid-market businesses. Think of us like one of your standard, Infusionsoft or Salesforce, et cetera, without necessarily the price tag. We combine CRM, marketing automation, inbound lead generation, and email marketing into one system. We refer to it as unified marketing.